I was out on the road again, feeling lost. Last month, I went through a tough breakup. At 35, I should have been settled, but here I was, just a long-haul truck driver searching for meaning. I often stopped at a lonely truck stop off a forgotten highway, filled with flickering lights and grimy booths. It felt familiar and, at the same time, sad. I arrived late that night. The smell of burnt food hit me as I walked in. I could hear my rig outside humming softly. The diner was empty, just me and a tired waitress moving slowly. I sat down at the counter, the day-old coffee in front of me. I think I came for comfort, but loneliness wrapped around me tighter. Around midnight, I noticed him. He wasn't like the usual faces. He looked odd, maybe in his 50s, with deep-set eyes. His grin made me uneasy. He sat in a booth behind me, and I felt his gaze. I didn't want to make eye contact, but it felt like I was being pulled towards him. I hesitated, then got up and took a seat across from him. He spoke slowly. I barely understood what he was saying. Something about a deal and a strange trinket. He pulled it out, and it made no sense to me. I didn't want to hear it, so I said I was just passing through. His smile grew wider, and I felt a chill go down my spine. I excused myself and returned to my truck. For the next few days, things felt off. I dismissed it at first. I started hearing things in the cab. Little noises that didn't belong. My truck felt hesitant, like it didn't want to go. I glanced in the rearview mirror and swore I saw shadows shift behind me. It gave me the creeps, but I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was just tired. Each stop got worse. I saw quick flashes in the darkness. Once, I thought I spotted him, the odd man from the diner standing in the parking lot. I blinked, and he vanished. My mind fought between fatigue and reality. One night, I pulled into a rest area. My stomach dropped as I felt his presence again. I stepped out, and there he was, lingering in the shadows. My heart raced, and I couldn't figure out why he was here. "Did you forget our deal?" he asked, his voice low. I froze. I was alone. I think I might have screamed, but I'm not sure what happened next. The world felt heavy. I scrambled back to my rig and locked the doors. I don't know if it was all in my head or if the man had followed me. But I couldn't shake it off. Each mile felt cursed. The road seemed endless, and the shadows danced around me. I drove on, and the odd man haunted my thoughts. I kept staring into the darkness, waiting for the moment I'd see him again. And when I did, I couldn't escape the feeling that something terrible was coming for me. The next morning, I woke up in my truck, feeling drained. The sun barely peeked over the horizon, painting everything in gray. I rubbed my eyes and checked the time. I needed to get moving but lingered, afraid to see shadows follow me again. As I drove, a storm rolled in. The sky darkened, and rain pelted my windshield. I focused on the road, drowning out the chilling thoughts of the previous night. I kept my eyes straight, but every so often, I felt a prickling at the back of my neck. It was as if someone was watching me again, lurking just out of sight. I pulled into another truck stop. It felt like déjà vu, and my gut twisted. I wiped my hands on my jeans, standing by my rig, trying to convince myself it was just fatigue making me paranoid. I stepped inside, nodding at the cashier who barely acknowledged me. The smell of frying bacon and coffee filled the air, contrasting with the fear clamoring in my chest. I took a seat at the end of the counter. I tried to ignore the chatter around me. My phone buzzed on the table. A message from my sister. "You okay? Heard you've been down." I wished I could tell her everything, but I didn't want to freak her out. My eyes drifted to the corner booth, and my breath hitched. There he was. The odd man from the diner, his grin just as unsettling as before. I felt the urge to bolt, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. Instead, I watched him, frozen. He looked different now, the shadows under his eyes seemed deeper, more pronounced. The waitress cleared my plate, and I took a deep breath, still focused on the man. He caught my eye, and for a moment, his smile faltered. My heart raced. Then he pointed at me, a crooked finger raised. My stomach twisted and I wanted to scream, but I didn't want to be the crazy guy in the diner. That ass when he waved me over, a fluid motion that drew me in despite my instincts telling me to run. I was out of time. I found myself standing in front of him, feet rooted to the floor. "Do you know what you've unleashed?" he asked, his voice like cold steel. "What are you talking about?" I stammered. He leaned in, his breath foul. "The deal we have. You're part of it now." I shook my head, the world spinning around me. I felt that heavy presence again, like a weight pressing down. I stumbled back, gripping the edge of the table for support. "It's not over," he said softly, launching a thread of dread through my veins. "You will see." I bolted out of the diner, the rain slapping against my face as I raced back to my rig. My heart pounded, drowning out everything else. I had to get away, but I could feel him behind me, in the shadows. When I climbed into the cab, my phone buzzed again. I nearly dropped it as I grabbed it. A voicemail. My sister's voice, trembling. "Please, call me. I think there's something wrong." Before I could process it, a flash from my rearview mirror made my blood run cold. I saw him again, standing just outside the truck stop, a sinister silhouette against the storm. Something terrible was coming for me. And I was running out of places to hide. I fumbled with the key in the ignition, my hands shaking so bad that I almost missed the switch. The engine roared to life, drowning out the storm. I glanced at the rearview mirror one last time, but the strange man was gone. Just like the shadows that had haunted me, I pulled out of the parking lot, tires splashing through puddles as I hit the main road. My mind raced, trying to piece together what just happened. The words he said echoed in my thoughts, "The deal we have." It felt like a weight I couldn't shake, a dark question I didn't want to answer. I hit the gas, trying to outrun whatever it was that was chasing me. The rain poured down in sheets, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Visibility dropped, and I fought against the panic creeping into my heart. I needed to focus. My phone buzzed again. I hesitated, but the urgency in my sister's voice had been clear. I picked it up, glancing at the screen while keeping my eyes on the road. The message was just a notification about her previous voicemail, but the creativity that came with my sister's concern felt ominous. I decided to pull over at the next rest area, my mind too scrambled to drive. As I parked, I took a deep breath and called her back. "Hello." The crackle of static made her voice sound distant. "Hey, it's me," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. "What is going on?" "I don't know," she replied, her voice wavering. "I just have this bad feeling. I saw something on the news, and it mentioned the truck stop you were at." Something about. Before she could finish, a loud bang echoed through the air, cutting her off. I flinched and looked around. The rain fell like a curtain, but all I could see were the outlines of trees, swaying ominously in the wind. "What was that?" I asked, heart racing. "I don't know," she said, her voice trembling. "Just be careful. There's something." The call dropped. I stared at the phone, confused and scared. I didn't want to think about what that bang could mean. I just wanted to get out of there. I climbed out of the cab, feeling drenched and exposed in the heavy rain. As I scanned the rest area, something caught my eye. Just past a row of trucks, I noticed a figure standing beneath a flickering light. My breath caught in my throat. It was him, the man from the diner, standing still as a statue, his grin wider than before. He raised a hand, waving, and my instinct screamed at me to run, but I froze instead, sensing something shifting within me. The storm rumbled overhead, clouds swirling ominously. And that's when I felt it, a strange pull, like an invisible thread connecting us. I didn't want to look at him, but I couldn't look away. Then everything went dark. I woke up to the sound of distant thunder rumbling overhead, feeling cold and disoriented. The flickering light overhead buzzed erratically, casting shadows that danced along the ground. I was no longer at the rest area. I lay on the damp grass behind the diner, rain gently tapping against my skin. Panic shot through me as I sat up. My phone was still clutched in my hand, the screen now dim and unresponsive. I pressed the power button, but nothing happened. I was cut off, and the sense of isolation sank deeper. Instinct kicked in. I scrambled to my feet, my heart thudding in my chest. I had to find out what happened. I turned, and there he was, the man with the unsettling grin, standing just a few feet away, his presence like a storm cloud threatening to burst. "Welcome back," he said, his voice smooth as silk, yet filled with a chilling undertone. I took a step back, heart racing. "What do you want from me?" His eyes sparkled with a strange intensity. "I just want to make sure you understand the deal we've struck." "What deal?" He moved closer, the shadows from the flickering light stretching around him like dark tendrils. "You arrived here at a crossroads, didn't you? Choices are powerful things. You've already begun the journey out of fear." My head spun. I had no idea what he meant. "Just let me go," I demanded, my voice shaking. "What if I told you that running away is not an option?" He asked, tilting his head, as if my fear was entertaining. "You and I are connected now." I wanted to scream. I wanted to flee. But deep down, a part of me was curious, what exactly had I gotten involved in? "Your sister called you right before I found you," he continued. "Someone is searching for you." "What do you know about my sister?" I spat back, frustration spilling into my words. "More than you think." His grin widened. "But you're not ready for that truth." Just then, headlights swept across the area, illuminating us for a brief moment. I turned, squinting into the brightness. A familiar truck pulled up, a truck I'd seen earlier at the rest area. It stopped, the engine rumbled like a beast waiting to pounce. "Run!" I shouted at the man, but he stood there, unfazed. "You're just a figment," I told myself, but doubt gnawed at me. The truck's door swung open, and a figure stepped out, silhouetted against the light. I couldn't see their face, but something in my gut tightened. I knew that person wasn't there to help. "Get in the truck!" They yelled, urgency laced in that voice, a voice that set off alarm bells in my head. Before I could decide, the man beside me laughed softly, tauntingly. "You'll make your choice soon enough." Suddenly, everything felt like a blur. Shadows and light collided, the world around me twisting and swirling. Then, the grip of the unseen thread pulled me, tighter and tighter, and I vanished, sucked away from my choice, the darkness swallowing me whole. I opened my eyes to gray skies, an awkward feeling of weightlessness enveloping me. I was no longer behind the diner. Instead, I lay on a cold, metal floor that felt alien beneath me. The sounds of the rain faded, replaced by the low hum of machinery and distant voices. My pulse quickened. I pushed myself up and scanned my surroundings. I was in some sort of industrial space, dimly lit and cramped, with large crates stacked haphazardly against the walls. Flickering fluorescent lights overhead buzzed, casting unsettling shadows everywhere. "Where am I?" I whispered, the empty room echoing my voice back at me. A sudden clatter startled me, and I whipped around. From behind a nearby crate, a figure emerged. It was a man, short, with a scruffy beard and wild eyes that darted nervously. Instinctively, I took a step back. Are you okay?" he stammered, glancing over his shoulder as if something were chasing him. "Do you know where we are?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the rising panic within me. "I'm not sure," he replied, his voice trembling. "I think they brought us here." "Who?" I pressed, heart racing. "People from the truck, I think. They've been watching." He cut off suddenly when a loud clang echoed through the space. Fear gripped me. It was too loud, too close. "They're coming." The man shrieked, his eyes wide with terror. I turned instinctively, staring at the shadows creeping closer. This was it. I needed to find a way out. "We have to move," I urged, but he stood frozen in place, his breath coming in shallow gasps. "Listen, I saw something," he blurted out, swaying slightly as if the weight of what he shared was too much to bear. "There were these files. They had our names. And they had a picture of you." My stomach dropped. "Why? Why would they have my picture?" "They said something about you being part of a deal, and your sister." He trailed off, panic taking over his features. The mention of my sister sent a jolt of cold dread through me. "What about her?" I demanded, my mind racing. "I couldn't hear everything, but I think they want you both for some kind of plan." Suddenly, there was that voice again, the man with the unsettling grin. I felt his presence wash over me like a chill. "You didn't think you could escape that easily, did you?" I turned, a burst of anger igniting within me. "Leave us alone." His laughter resonated in my ears like a taunt. "You're in deeper than you realize. There's no running from this." Before I could respond, the room shook as the flashing lights grew brighter. My heart raced as I glanced back at the man beside me. "We have to find a way out now." Then everything went dark. The lights flickered, and I felt a rush of wind against my face. All at once, the floor vanished beneath me, and I plunged into the unknown. I held on to the last shred of hope. I had to confront whatever was waiting on the other side. I just had to find the truth before it consumed me. I hit the ground hard, the breath knocked out of me. I struggled to sit up, gasping for air. Light flooded my vision, harsh and blinding. I blinked until shapes came into focus. I was in another room, but this one was cleaner, brighter, almost sterile. That I was alone. "Where did he go?" I whispered, rubbing my aching shoulder. The panic tightened my chest again. I felt so certain that I wouldn't be separated from that man, that he'd dilate back into sight any minute now. The uneasy feeling returned, crawling up my spine. Standing up, I took stock of my surroundings. There were rows of metallic tables with strange equipment scattered across them, machines that looked like they belonged in a sci-fi movie. Beeping monitors lined the walls, and a pungent smell hung in the air, like disinfectant mixed with something else I couldn't quite place. I turned back, scanning for any sign of the man, but he had vanished completely. A soft sound caught my ear. I turned toward it and saw a door slightly ajar at the far end of the room. Mustering my courage, I approached slowly, each step echoing in the sudden quiet. I needed answers, and maybe that door offered a way out, or at least a sign of what was happening. As I pushed the door open, a wave of cool air washed over me. The corridor was much like the one I had just left, stark and lined with more of those machines, each generating their own low hum. I took a deep breath and stepped inside, unconsciously gripping the edge of the door frame for support. That's when I saw it, a large glass panel set into the wall, like a giant window. My heart raced as I approached it, and I peered through. Inside the room beyond was a similar layout, but it was filled with people. They were hunched over tables, poring over documents and typing into computers. I squinted, desperate to see if I recognized anyone, but my heart sank when I didn't. One of the workers caught sight of me and pointed. Panic spread through the group. They exchanged hurried whispers and then rushed to exit through a door nearby. Fear flooded my thoughts. Were they like me? Were they being held against their will too? I turned to run back into the corridor when I collided with something solid. I stumbled backward, regaining my balance, and looked up. It was him, the man with the unsettling grin. He loomed over me, blocking my escape. "I told you there's no running from this," he said, that twisted smile spreading across his face. "Get out of my way." I shouted, the adrenaline pulsing through me. "Not yet," he replied, tilting his head. "You need to understand what's at stake. You're in the middle of something far bigger than you realize." I felt the heat of anger and confusion crash over me. "What do you mean?" Before he could respond, alarms blared through the building, red lights flashing in a panic. The air shifted around us, heavy with urgency. It was clear I had just become part of whatever mess I was in. "Time up," he shouted, pointing toward the exit. "You can either run or have it all explained, but you won't have much time to decide." In that instant, desperation surged within me. The truth hung tantalizingly close, but I had no idea what awaited me if I chose to follow him. I took a breath, mind racing, and in that moment of stillness, I made my choice. I had to find out what had been planned for me. I was no longer just a bystander in this twisted game, it was time to take control. I took a step forward, heart pounding in my chest. The alarms blared louder, and the man grinned wider, as if my choice delighted him. "Good," he said, stepping aside. "Follow me." I hesitated, glancing back at the dark corridor and the chaos behind the glass panel. At that moment, I wanted to believe he had answers. I had to trust my gut. I rushed past him into the corridor, the low hum of machines accompanying my every step. He led me down a winding path, the walls seeming to pulse with a life of their own. I caught glimpses of rooms like the one I just left. More workers, more machines, each one busier than the last. It felt like stepping into a hive. My mind raced with questions. What was their purpose? What were they all working on? "Here," the man said abruptly, stopping at a door with a large, metal handle. "This will give you some context." He opened the door, and I couldn't resist the urge to peek inside. That it was a small room, illuminated by a single overhead light. A table in the center held an assortment of devices strange and ominous. There were wires and screens, and in the middle, what looked like a human brain suspended in a clear liquid. My breath hitched. "What is this?" I stammered. That he stepped into the room and gestured for me to follow. "This is what we've been adapting. The mind. Yours is the next one we'll tap into." My pulse raced. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play coy," he said, that unsettling grin still plastered on his face. "You're here because you have something they want. Something we can use." "Who are you?" I gasped, the fear curling back into the pit of my stomach. Before he could answer, the alarms took on a new tone, more urgent, more demanding. "We need to move," he shouted. He grabbed my arm and pulled me along, the sound echoing through the corridor. The atmosphere thickened with tension. I could hear the footsteps of others approaching, a cacophony of shouts and commands. My instincts screamed at me to run away, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was right where I needed to be. Another door swung open, and we stumbled into another room that looked like a control center. Monitors filled with data flickered in the low light, and several people in lab coats typed furiously. The air smelled different here, tinged with desperation. "There." The man pointed to a screen. "That's you. You have to see this." I stepped close, squinting at the data displayed. My name was at the top, alongside charts and graphs I couldn't begin to comprehend. "What is this?" I asked, voice shaking. "Proof," he said, leaning in closer, his intensity almost overwhelming. "You have the potential to change everything." "Change what?" I shouted, heart racing. Then, before he could respond, the lights flickered above us. Papers scattered on the table, and a sudden crash echoed from the hallway. I could hear shouting mixed with the sounding alarms, a chaos far too close for comfort. That I had to make a choice. I could learn more, even if it meant risking everything, or I could still attempt to escape this place. My breath quickened as I gripped the edge of the table, uncertain of what was next, but in the back of my mind, a nagging thought emerged. Was I truly the one in control of my fate? "Think fast," he hissed, and I couldn't tell if he was warning me or challenging me. I looked between the screen and the door, the panic solidifying within me as I heard more footsteps approaching. My choice was becoming clearer, and dread settled in my gut. Whatever lay ahead, I had to decide now. I made my choice in a heartbeat. Panic urged me toward the door, but a wild curiosity kept me rooted by the screen. I glanced at the man, still wearing that same unsettling grin as chaos surged around us. Then the alarms shifted again, a sequence of blaring signals as if issuing a warning, stay or go. My instincts kicked in. We can't stay here, I blurted, ripping myself from my indecision. Wait, he barked, grabbing my arm. You need to see this first. Before I could protest, he spun back to the screen, eyes gleaming with a strange fervor, and pointed again. Look closer. I hesitated, torn between terror and intrigue. The numbers shifted, constantly recalibrating themselves with unsettling speed. I leaned in, my heart still racing, and suddenly it hit me. Each line of data seemed to represent moments from my life experiences, choices, but they were twisted, manipulated in ways I couldn't comprehend. What is this? I whispered more to myself than to him. That's your mind mapping, he explained, his voice urgent. We can amplify your thoughts. Unlock your potential. You're a vessel. His words washed over me, igniting a spark of fear. A vessel for what? Before he could clarify, the crash from the hallway erupted again, louder this time. Glass shattered, and I felt the tremor ripple through the floor. People in lab coats dropped their papers and frantically shouted commands to one another. An air of desperation thickened as shouts echoed down the corridor. Listen, we're running out of time, he said, his fingers trembling slightly against the screen. We can hide here, or you can embrace what you are. But you'll need to trust me. A wave of adrenaline surged through me. I glanced around the control room, searching for an escape route. The door was still ajar, but I suspected that whatever was lurking out there might find us first. I refused to be a lab rat, I snapped, determined to stand my ground. His expression shifted ever so slightly, a hint of frustration breaking through his calm facade. Then understand this, they're coming for you. They want to use your potential for power, and very soon, you won't have a choice anymore. A chill ran down my spine as the sound of footsteps grew louder. I could hear muffled voices arguing, deciding who would breach the room first. At that moment an icy click shot through my mind. Suddenly, the monitors switched displays, revealing a live feed from a camera in the hallway. I gasped at the sight. Shadowed figures rushed toward our door, dressed in uniforms I didn't recognize. There was something threatening about them. They carried equipment that gleamed in the dim light, toting weapons that made my blood run cold. Get down! He yelled, and I dove to the floor just as the door began to creak open. The man hovered over me, blocking my view of the doorway. I could feel his tension radiating off him, his body taut like a coiled spring. Stay quiet. I swear, I won't let them take you, he whispered fiercely, but I realized that keeping silent might not be enough. Fear gripped me, my heart raced as I thought of the brain in the other room. Were they after me, or something far more valuable? Then, with a sudden rush, the figures spilled through the door. I was too late to turn back. Everything was about to change. The moment the figures poured into the room, my instincts screamed to flee, but my limbs felt frozen. The scent of sweat and metal overwhelmed me. I could barely make out their intentions as they swept their weapons around, scanning for anything that stood out. The man next to me remained tense, his body still shielding mine. Let them come, he muttered. The longer they think they're in control, the better. Frustration boiled inside me. Control. I wanted out. I had no desire to see what they wanted from me, but the fear of discovery tied me to the floor. My mind raced. Did he really think this was a game of patience? I risked a glance past him, my breath shallow. The faces of the intruders were hard to see. Their gear gleamed ominously in the dim light, the edges of their masks obscuring their expressions. One stepped forward, tall and ominous, holding a device that glowed with a strange energy. Find it. He barked, voice rough and commanding. It has to be here. Secure the room. My palms grew clammy, and I felt a strange pulse within me. It was like a heartbeat echoing through the chaos. What was happening? Were they truly after me? The other figures fanned out, searching each corner of the room. I barely held my breath when I felt the man beside me shift. "Stay hidden," he whispered, and I saw a flash of determination in his eyes. Just when I thought my heart would explode, I noticed something on a nearby shelf, a small, metallic orb. It pulsed faintly, almost as if it were alive. Could it be connected to me? This strange place? Or perhaps it was what they were looking for. "Focus," the man beside me urged, sensing my gaze. "You need to hone in on your abilities. Trust your instincts." But trusting him felt like an impossible leap. The orb was enticing, drawing my attention away from the armed figures. Before I could give it much thought, one of the intruders turned sharply, locking eyes with me. I froze, caught in his glare. "Over there!" he shouted, pointing directly at me. In an instant, the room crackled with tension. I darted away from my hiding spot, not even thinking about the man beside me. Instinct took over. I sprinted toward the orb, my fingers brushing against its smooth surface. "Stop!" the lead intruder yelled, but I was already too far into the unknown. A blinding light erupted from the orb at my touch, expanding outward like a wave. It engulfed the room, moments frozen in time 1 second, then chaos erupted the next. The glimmering force knocked the intruders off their feet, sending their weapons skidding across the floor. "What have you done?" the man shouted from somewhere behind me, urgency flickering in his voice that I couldn't answer. My mind buzzed with energy, vibrating with possibilities, and everything felt electric. I turned to find the lead intruder scrambling to regain his footing, fury etched across his features. "Get it back!" he growled, struggling to rise. That's when I realized, whatever was happening, I had unleashed something powerful. I could feel it thrumming beneath my skin. As the light pulsed stronger, I remained uncertain of who was truly in control. Then everything went dark. I woke up again, this time lying flat on a surface that didn't feel as cold or metallic as before. I opened my eyes to bright fluorescent lights flickering above, the hum of machinery fading into the background. Panic fluttered in my chest as I sat up, scanning the unfamiliar room. Was I still trapped in this nightmare, or had something shifted? The room was smaller, walls lined with odd machinery, but felt less oppressive. For a moment, I convinced myself I was dreaming, but as I fumbled to push myself up, the sensations, my pulse racing, my breathing shallow, felt all too real. I glanced around, and that's when I spotted him, the man with the unsettling grin, leaning casually against a wall, arms crossed, a glimmer of amusement in his eyes. "Welcome back," he said, his voice dripping with that familiar coldness. I felt an instinctive rush of anger toward him, but another wave of confusion washed over me. "Where is everyone?" The question escaped me before I fully grasped the gravity of our situation. He chuckled, a low, mocking sound. "They're gone for now," he replied. "Those who were after you didn't expect you to unleash your potential. It's different now, isn't it?" I took a cautious step back. "What exactly did I do?" I demanded, but his grin only deepened. "Nothing you wouldn't find out soon enough. You surprised them." A surge of adrenaline coursed through me as pieces began to click together. Those people, that wasn't a lab rat scenario. They needed something from me. "An understanding of your mind," he said, stepping closer. "They were close, but you've thrown them off balance. But was it a blessing or some kind of curse?" "Why me?" I asked, trying to regain some semblance of control. What could I possibly offer? Potential, my dear friend. A transformation, one that could bend reality. They wanted to tap into you. Me? Why would they stop questioning? He said sharply. Survival is key. You don't understand the interests vying for your mind. That's precisely what you need to grasp before the chaos unfurls again. Fear shivered through me, mingling with a flicker of something else, curiosity, maybe. And what do I need to do? Embrace it. They'll come looking for you again soon enough. This time, you have the upper hand, he said, clapping a hand on my shoulder. You can use it to your advantage. Am I to become some kind of puppet master, or worse, a weapon in his grand design? I wanted to fight against it, but he'd spoken the truth. I had unleashed something powerful. But before I could sort through my thoughts, alarms blared again, and the ground shook slightly beneath my feet. All that belief in control slipped away, replaced by an anger-driven clarity. He might have answers, but I craved freedom. Wait! I shouted, pushing past him toward the door. I realize now whatever force brought me here, it's not yours to wield. I dashed into the corridor, dodging the hum of machinery and the distant echoes of voices. I was thrust into some unfamiliar twist of reality, but a fierce determination burned in my chest. I had a choice to make. Could I find a way to escape, or would I keep tumbling deeper down this rabbit hole? As I rushed through the now familiar maze of corridors, thoughts swirled in my mind. No more agreements, no more traps. A shadow flitted across my peripheral vision, and I spun around. The man stood at the end of the corridor, a dark silhouette against the fluorescent lights. He raised a hand, but I didn't stop. Understand this. He shouted. You're part of the bigger picture now, and your decisions carry weight. I glanced back once more, the weight of his words settling in my mind. What was the price of my freedom, and could I truly escape this tangled web? I barreled forward, driven by the hope of finding an exit. The room I came from vanished behind me, and shadows danced along the hallway like spirits of the past mingling with the uncertainty of my future. Maybe I would never truly know what the deal entailed, or what awaited me outside. But as I approached a set of imposing doors, my heart raced with one thought echoing in my mind. I had the power to shape whatever came next. And that power, whether cursed or blessed, may well decide my fate. I pushed through the door, a breath away from the unknown, and as the bright light washed over me, I whispered to the shadows lurking behind whatever this was. I was ready to confront it. But even as I stepped into the light, a tingling doubt remained. Was the man with the grin truly gone, or had I merely entered a new chapter of his haunting game?